And if we don't have spirituality, we cannot elevate that pain into growth, into wisdom. And that's what the call is here. You need support. I think Rabbi Haber said beautifully, the opposite of depression is expression. We just sat in a room with 20, 30 guys. They talked things out. Nobody was judging them. They felt much better just by talking it out. Yes, my Shalom Bayit looks like Gaza. Okay, let me help you with that also. Yes, this is happening. But the fact that you can just talk things out, that itself is a huge deal. Forget if you get results. The fact that you're not holding it in is huge. And also, connection. We changed our whole recovery centers. Before we said, you know what? We have to get the best therapist. That's going to be the solution. And then we recognize it's not really the therapist. The therapists help you. But if these people don't have a connection, they're going to end up relapsing. So connection now is huge. We've transformed our facilities to have connections and to have communities. Before, we never heard of a community in a rehab center. But what happens? People come in there, they feel alone, they have low self-esteem, they feel judged, and they never spoke about their problems to anybody. So now that at least they have other people that will listen to them and non-judgmental. So you could see, I said, wow, that's the key? This is the key to healing? It's that simple. The problem is today, we're too judgmental. And that's one of the things, if you see the following that we've had in the classes, wherever you go, the first thing I tell you, the more you understand people, the less you will judge them. And the fact that you are judging them is because you're not understanding them. And you're not understanding them because you're not humble. When you start understanding people and you recognize where they come from and you understand where they are, your relationships across the board will take on a whole different world. Your marriage will get better. Everything across the board because you become more conscious. But the more we're judging people, like who are we to judge? At the end of the day, who are we to judge? Who are we to judge? Not only when we judge, you're blocking yourself from receiving, but you're doing the exact opposite of your creator. So this is why this organization is needed. And remember, everybody needs relief. There's no question everybody needs relief. The question is, where are you getting the relief? Are you getting the relief from drinking or are you getting the relief from talking? But somehow the relief is going to come. So what we're doing now is we're taking the pain and we're substituting instead of the alcohol, instead of the drugs, we're instituting speaking. And that itself will do the exact same thing. It will provide relief. You have to understand, today is not the same as before, where a guy says, you know what, I'm having a bad day, I want to use. Everything has fentanyl in now, my friend. You're dropping dead in 24 hours. Even some weeds have fentanyl now to hook people. It's not like before, okay, give him time, he's getting together. No. There's been more overdoses that I've seen in the past 2 years than I've ever seen in my life. It's because of fentanyl. There's a lot of pain, but it's not where you can say, give the guy a chance. No. That meeting might save his life. It's not a question about before whether the meeting is okay, let him talk it out. No. The meeting could save his life. I can't tell you how many times I've seen this, where all the people had to do is just talk it out. I have a 40-day challenge group. Am I in love with the challenge all day long asking me? But at least they're not going to other things. It's the fact that they can express it. Just imagine what our marriages would look like. Instead of every single time we didn't like something, we resented it, and we just told each other, you know what, I don't like this about you. Could you change it? No problem, honey. I'll change it. Instead of not talking to each other, passive aggressiveness, etc. Just to show you how much a simple expression can do. Just the fact that our Creator says, if you have a worry in your heart, cast it upon me. Talk about it. Talking is bigger than you think. It's not what's going out, it's what's coming in. And that's something we really, really need to emphasize. So this organization, again, any time where you're doing meetings where people have to go to a church, where you're making it easier for them. Remember, people have very low, the fact that a person already is not feeling good. already his 90% of his mood is already not going to go to the meeting. So the fact that you could do anything to basically make it easy for him to go to that meeting, you could save his life. Because when people don't feel good about themselves, they're not going to go to the meetings. They're not going to go to the meetings. This is why this is so important, this organization. And I bless you that the money should really come from your alumni. That is the greatest blessing, that the alumni should give you the money, that the alumni should say, you know what, this changed my life, I want to give you the money. That's when you know you have real bracha. When your followers create the business, that's really the key. So I want to talk about a little bit, we're 40 days before Rosh Hashanah. It's a huge, huge, huge time, 40 days before Rosh Hashanah. And honestly, it was so nice to meet everybody here, so many new faces, and it just to see exactly where these classes have gone. And I just want to talk about one thing, a little bit related to addiction. When I first had a gambling problem, when I was 21, 22, I grew up in Miami. Obviously, I grew up with a mentality, I want to be rich, I want to be successful, I want to get that apartment on the ocean, blah, 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 blah. So that led me to a very, very bad gambling addiction. At the time, obviously, the last thing I wanted to do was go into synagogue. It was not for me. It's just, there's nothing about synagogue, page 22, page 44. I mean, there was nothing there that I really wanted. And only until I crashed and lost everything that I had in my life did I find Reb Nachman's teachings. But I recognize one thing about addiction you guys need to understand. And this is why you need spirituality, not just therapy. And again, I own therapy, and I say this all the time. The therapy will tell you what you need to work on. Then you have to do the work. And I recognize, wow, my whole gambling addiction started because I had low self-esteem. Very simple. Because why at 22 years old did I need to prove to people that I was rich? Why in the world did I need to prove to them? Are they paying my mortgage? What are they doing for me? Why do I have to prove to people so much that I would go risk my whole life in gambling and deal with bookies and deal with putting myself in danger just because low self-esteem? So that taught me a major lesson, that even if you have an addiction itself and you fix the addiction, you still have to go to the original problem to fix it. Very, very important to understand that. Even if you fix the addiction, you still need to go to the original problem. That means if you don't deal with the self-esteem, and I know there's a lot of pressure on the community with money, but you need to understand something. I've been through many ups and downs in this business. I've been tested many times. But any time where your self-worth is your net worth, you're going to have a problem. I mean, what happens? If the Dow Jones goes down 2,000 points, your self-worth goes down? I mean, is that the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard? But it seems to be that there's a problem when self-worth is net worth, self-worth is connected to net worth. So when you have that formula, you have a bad day, you lose money in business, what are you going to do? You're going to start using drugs? You're going to start blaming the world? And that's a little bit of it needs a little bit shallow, it needs work. Yes, God's the one that gives the bracha. The greatest thing, I've never seen a community so abundant in charity. I actually grew up as in my grandmother's house, Becky Saka, may she rest in peace, and I saw her the way she gave charity, and that's the way I give charity. Nobody gives charity like you. But you cannot have a situation in life, because we're going to all go ups and downs. We're going to all deal with ups and downs in business. And then what happens? You have 20% off. Oh, my self-worth is not worth. I feel 20% less about myself today. I mean, it's just a recipe for disaster. And our sages tell us what attracts money in our life and what attracts blessing is trust, charity, joy, faith, peace. But what pushes it away? What pushes it away is anger, sadness, jealousy, fear, strife. That's pushing it away. So it's very, very important to control your emotional state when you're going through a tough time in business. I know last year I went through a tough time. It ended up becoming the greatest blessing in the world, but you do get tested. Even the Parshas Haman says, I will give you money, but to test you. So what are you going to do? You get tested, you get depressed right away? So that's something that I've seen that we need to work on having a better relationship with money. Because when you have low self-esteem and you're not making as much, the first thing you do is start comparing your life, you lose your identity, and then what do you have left? Okay, so you have money, but you're not happy. You're not happy. And many people ask me, well, how do you live this life and how are you, the business? And I said, how can I not be? I don't understand the question. What does money and living a spiritual life, opposite? If God gave you money and God gave you blessings, that should make you arrogant and should turn you away from God? I don't understand. No comprendo. I don't understand the concept. How do people that have money become arrogant and say, you know what, I have money, I'm good? That I've never understood that concept. And this is something that I'm trying to because let me explain to you something. You can have money, but you can have a horrible relationship. And the money's not going to be nothing. You can have tons of money and have no spirituality, no meaning, and little things will become every little thing will be a big deal in your life. You can have money and all day long you're a passenger in people's lives and watching other people make more money and you're miserable inside. So money's not everything. And that's something that we have to have a better relationship. Yes, it's good to be part of a community, but you still have to have your individuality. And that's the one thing about I liked about Nachman. He came to Uman. Yes, he's part of the Syrian community, Mr. Sulin, David Sulin, but their heart was in Breslov. Doesn't mean I still have my individuality. It's very careful. You don't want to lose yourself in life just because you're part of a community. It's very, very important. I see that all the time. We have an identity crisis. We don't know who we are anymore. And you can never end up doing what you need to do in life. So I think this is one of the things I've asked people, how'd you get here? Too much pressure. I got too much pressure to do this, couldn't handle anymore, I turned to drugs. So maybe we need to have more understanding and not put so much pressure on this. Like I said anyway, the money's going to come to you from Hashem. Whether you're smiling or you're not smiling is going to come to you in that area of your life. You might as well have a good attitude. Whether you're going through a test or you're not going through a test, you might as well have a good attitude towards it. It shouldn't sink every other area of your life. But what happens is, Reb Nachman tells us very simple. He says, if you first lose your faith in God, right away from that, you're going to fall into other problems that you're not even going to be able to handle. So like I said before, we always have to go back to the original issue. My low self-esteem at the time I was gambling, no matter how much I stopped gambling and I can go to all the meetings in the world. If I don't fix the low self-esteem, that's going to be a problem. I have low self-esteem. The next thing you know, I could say, you know what, that relationship didn't work out because I was codependent. What do you think is going to happen in the next relationship? The same things keep on showing up in our lives. So our addictions are only telling us we're running away from pain. Anytime you run away from pain, that's just going to bring more pain. And what society has to do to fix this is take responsibility. So I strongly recommend, the greatest thing we could do today right now is 40 days before Rosh Hashanah. Start praying, start creating your own individuality. Start getting to a point, and I remember starting my classes, and I used to be so offended, because this person said, he's not religious enough. And I got to a point where I don't care. And I felt like $1 million. And we all have to get to that point, where you have your individual course in life, and you do what's right in your heart, and you say, I couldn't care less. They like it, they judge me, they don't judge me. And it's funny, today, the more religious people are, the more they judge, which I don't understand. Like, what are we learning? What in the world are we learning? Like, have we lost everything? And this is why it's very, very, very important to have your original road. God gave you a unique soul. He gave you a unique mission. You can be part of a community. You can be part of everything, but you have to stay in your own lane. You never want to become somebody else. You never want to watch somebody else. Because what happens is you're never going to blossom. You can't blossom. And this is what I see Nachman. I see, if he wasn't out of his lane, he would never create this Makor organization. He would never create it. So there's a volleyball net here. He can play volleyball all day long with his kids and whatever he's got going on. A whole amusement park over here. But the fact that he said, I need to do something. I need to create my own lane. And I think you got that from Reb Nachman's teachings. I think you got that from your father. I think you got that from your father. Because otherwise, to do something like this and be out of the box, you're going to have haters. You're going to have haters. And believe me, anytime you do anything good, you're going to have haters. Don't be a carbon cut. I don't want to hear the same thing. My sister's getting married in 2 weeks and I'm not married. I mean, come on. Everybody has a different life. Everybody has a different mission. Your sister's mission is completely different than yours. But we lose it if we keep on looking at other people's lives. When you compare, you're going to despair. When you live in your own lane, you're going to have fulfillment, you're going to have happiness, and you're going to have joy. May Hashem bless us all. We should have an amazing year. We should all hit our original identity. And most importantly, when we do that, we feel happy. When we're happy, we don't judge. When we're happy, we give. When we're happy, our whole life changes. But when we die, when we live our lives as copies and we lose our originality, life just becomes very dormant. It's the same thing over and over again. And I think that's why people are losing themselves, because they're not finding their own nikuda. My recommendation, like Reb Nathan says, if you pray 40 days in a row, you're going to get an answer. Ask God, what is my mission in this world? What do I need to bring in this world? What do I need to bring out? If you ask for 40 days straight, you have 40 days before Rosh Hashanah. I just spoke to maybe 10, 15 people that told me they got answers after Rosh Hashanah. Spend 10, 15 minutes asking God, how do I hit my potential in that area of my life? Because when you have meaning and purpose, you don't have addiction. You don't have addiction. You have growth, you have everything else. Hashem help us all. We should all get to that.